G'day there guys, on the bottom of Santa's naughty list here, it's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's content, I want you to personally sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Thank you. Our first post is by user Merry Christmas I guess, titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my entire family out at 1 AM on Christmas Eve after they showed up unannounced? Merry Christmas, everyone. Throw away because I don't want family drama affiliated with my main account, Lamau. So for some context, I'm 29 male and my husband is 27 male and we have a 2-year-old son. I lost touch with my family in my early 20s after coming out. They reached out right after my son was born, talking about the joys of family and can we reconnect because they want to be grandparents and all. We've been very slowly building our relationship, but they have no concept of boundaries, so it's not been going so well. That's a long-ass story. The only reason they call and visit now is to see the baby and to be salty to me. They live 5 hours away, and they asked me to visit for family Christmas so they can see the baby. I said no, we're in a pandemic. What the hell? They said, well, can we come over and see the baby? And I said, no, that's the same thing. They showed up anyway with no notice. My mum, dad, sister, brother-in-law, brother, sister-in-law, their kids, etc. Literally 9 people. Their plan was to stay over and have baby spend Christmas with his cousin to make memories. We live in a 3-bedroom house. Obviously hell no for many reasons. They got here around 1 AM, and I immediately was like, leave. They said it's snowing outside, and night visibility is crap, where will we go? I said I don't care, just leave. There was a whole fit, and they made my husband cry, woke my baby up, and then the baby cried. They were talking about, it's Christmas Eve. Hell, it's already Christmas now. It's family, you can't do this, where will we go? I kicked them out anyway, and I had to threaten to call the cops, which I admit was dramatic. The baby was up until 5 AM crying, then dancing on our heads. I haven't slept at all, and guilt is setting in a bit because I keep thinking, where would they have gone? There's no hotels on Christmas, are there? It was night, and it was snowing. What if something bad happened? But a part of me is also mad as hell. I keep going back and forth. Maybe it's because I haven't slept at all. And edit, forgot to add. Part of the reason I feel so bad is because they had young kids with them. And I don't like my family, but I don't want something bad to happen to them. Might as well have sucked it up and kicked them out of the morning, but then again, I don't know. I don't think you're the a-hole for this situation. I feel like you made it clear that they are not to come over, and you gave perfectly fine reasons as to why you were not comfortable with that. If these people want to read it as, I don't care what you guys think, we're coming over anyway, we're gonna get in the Christmas spirit, then it's on them for the repercussions of those actions. It's not your fault that they got kicked out. That feels like it's completely on them. They chose to go and surprise you with this, knowing there was a possibility of you saying no and kicking them out, and they didn't have a backup plan. You know what, that sucks, but that's life. They're the ones that need to figure out a backup plan for themselves, and they chose not to. Tough tits, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Master Manipulation says, not the a-hole. That's a huge boundary stomp and ridiculous expectations. They woke you up at 1 AM, demanding you let them stay the night at your house, and were being disrespectful. What they did was a classic manipulation ploy. After being told no, they put OP in a situation where they believed that he couldn't say no. The coming to visit after OP told them no was obviously on purpose and thought out. Showing up at 1 AM was also deliberate and not accidental. They chose a time that put more pressure on OP to give in. Showing up at 1 AM with young kids was also deliberate, and not accidental. Young kids are the perfect pawns for just no's, because they will always say, but what about the children? To manipulate people. I mean, Who would or could stop such boundary stomping when they put themselves in a difficult situation? Late night with nowhere else to go, with young kids. They bet the farm that OP wouldn't say no, and were surprised he stood up to them. That wasn't the way it was supposed to go. Their gambit was foolproof. OP needs to understand that real families don't do this to each other, and stop feeling guilty for turning those people away. In fact, it's time for OP to go no contact again, and prepare for a bunch of FMs. Not the a-hole. A person is never the a-hole when fighting back against boundary stomping, even if it puts the other person in a difficult situation, because 99% of the time, they put themselves in that situation to force their boundary stomping. Darcy Pennell says, "Not the a-hole. You feel bad about turning away the kids they brought because you're a compassionate person. But that's why they brought little kids to your door at 1 a.m. So you'd have no choice but to let them in. They used the kids to manipulate you. You did the right thing." And OP replies, "I didn't even think of it that way. Thank you." Not only were they using those kids as pawns, which is so horrible, but if this had worked, they would know it and do it over and over again. No rational people think that showing up at 1 a.m. when they had been previously told no works. Well, shoot. I'm trying to talk about rational, and there was none of that in that carload. Feel sorry for the kids, but don't give in to the manipulation. You did what you needed to do. The right thing. So now I pass it to you guys. Do you guys think that OP did the right thing in this situation? And if you're in this situation, would you have given in and looked after them and, kind of enabled that behavior, I guess? This would be a hard one for me, because in a situation like that, I would definitely want to look after the kids, and I'd be pissed off that they put me in a hard situation like that. I don't know if I'm the person to have turned down them doing that. I think I know myself well enough, and it depends on the mood that I'm in. Most of the time I probably would be too compassionate and would let them in because I want the kids to be safe, because I would just feel terrible if they're out there driving in the snow and some freak accident happens. That would weigh too heavy on my conscience. But obviously that's not completely likely. It's just more probable than if there were no snow, which is scary. Our next post is by user HumbleAd9507, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my dad his favorite Christmas memory is one of my least favorite?" So I need to hear from others on this. When I, 21 female, was 8, my mum died. 2 years later, he was married again. That first Christmas after he remarried, I asked my dad if we could spend a few hours on Christmas Eve at the lake that we used to go to every year with my mum, just the two of us. He said sure, but then brought his wife and her 2 kids along, and we spent it together. I was so upset and mad, and it ruined the intention of going. To have one last moment where it felt like it was just the 3 of us. Not really, but it brought a closeness when we went there, just the 2 of us, and I wanted it one last time. I always made it known it wasn't what I wanted, and my dad knew I was mad, but he always talked about how that was one of his favorite Christmas memories, because it brought back our first family Christmas. I always wondered if he was talking like that to try and convince me that I felt the same way, because he always ignored my feelings on it. Anyway, I was talking to him for a little while yesterday, and he brought up the memory again, and I asked him to stop. He told me he didn't know what I meant, and I told him the memories might have been his favorite Christmas memory, but I hated it, and I did not look back fondly on it. He asked me how I could hate the memory of the first Christmas we had as a family with his wife and her kids. I told him because I had wanted one last Christmas memory of just the 2 of us. I said even an hour would have been better, but he ruined it by including them. He said he thought that I understood why they were included, and I said no. He just didn't want to accept that I was mad about it. He told me it was important to cement family bonds, and I told him if I could, I would gladly forget that memory. He got mad and told me that I didn't need to try and shame him for loving that memory. I told him I just wanted him to stop bringing it up to me. He's demanding an apology, and he told me I'm selfish for saying a memory was ruined because we included our family. I told him he would never understand, and I hung up on him. He messaged me after and told me he still wants the apology and for me to get over myself. Am I the a-hole? In this situation, I'm definitely on OP's side for this one. The dad is refusing to be compassionate and seeing this through your eyes, or maybe he is seeing it through your eyes and he's choosing not to care. Either of those situations, if those are, the reality of the situation, are both horrible to me. Just because he has a wife and 2 other kids doesn't mean that the feelings of this first kid don't matter, and he can blow up and say that he wants an apology for ruining the memory of his first kid. He is ruining the memory of this first kid. Something that so easily could have been a precious and special moment for OP, yet he chose to go the hard route and involve the others in there, just spoiling the memory for OP, knowingly doing it as well. He knew that he was going against OP's wishes. I have no remorse or pity for the father, and all of that is for OP. I feel terrible for them that he just doesn't care like this. He's the selfish one for denying that the memory was ruined for OP, because at the end of the day, a lot of the things we have are memories, and he's destroying that for OP. That's not fair. Not the a-hole. Seemingly okay 44 in the comments says, not the a-hole. He's not listening to you. He understands your feelings, but doesn't want to deal with the possibility that he screwed up. He actually owes you an apology. Clearance Denied 324 replies, I have read a great meme on Instagram. Communication doesn't make a great relationship, comprehension does. He understands and comprehends, he just doesn't care. I stated those exact words to my family when they decided to continue going out to bars, their extracurriculars, hanging out with friends, and knowing that both my husband and son are high risk. Still haven't seen them, and I rarely communicate. The pandemic has allowed me to put the necessary distance needed. Good luck, and obviously not the a-hole. The only good thing about this pandemic is that people have shown their true colors. Now you know you can't trust your family. Down in the comments further, where Boopmo says, not the a-hole. Mum here of a blended family. I made the mistake of doing something similar. I thought it would bring my kiddos joy to be included, and it didn't at all. They were very upset. I didn't know how upset until years later. Eventually they told me, and I apologized for hurting them. His intent wasn't to hurt you, but that was the result. It took courage to tell him your perspective, and whether or not he sees it is perfectly okay to tell him that something he brings up repeatedly is painful to you. That's a healthy boundary that you set. He should value how his actions and continued actions make you feel. And Little Oreo95 says, not the a-hole. He didn't care about your feelings, only about his. He, as your father, had the duty to protect you and to try to understand you. These were really difficult times to you, and he didn't care. He preferred to bring new family instead of respecting your wishes, and had quality time with her daughter. You have nothing to apologize. You asked him to stop bringing this memory to you, and he didn't want to. Then, you explained to him why you didn't like it, and he got mad instead of trying to understand your feelings. He is the one with the problem here, and the one who should apologize to you. You were a kid making a really difficult transition in your life, but he didn't care about it. He didn't care about her feelings then, and still doesn't care now. Maybe he can't tolerate the guilt that would flood him if he accepted her perspective. A lot of rejection of others' feelings is because we don't believe we can tolerate our own feelings if we accepted the other person's perspective as valid. Consider inserting an ounce of compassion in with your well-deserved anger, not the a-hole. And our last comment, Classic Rock Panda says, everyone sucks here. Both of you disregard each other's feelings, are selfish, and keep grudges over decades. Surprised it took me so long to find this comment. Everyone is always quick to demonize parents that remarried. OP, everyone sucks here. I get what you wanted, but there is more to this situation than just feelings of one person. By claiming that one is the a-hole for disregarding someone's feelings, you have to realize that you can't do that by disregarding other people's feelings. It's about mutually understanding them and finding a way to coexist with them. Opie doesn't like the memory, but Dad does. Why should Dad have to act like he doesn't? How is it any more fair to him to have to act like the memory doesn't exist? After a decade, that's a long time to hold on to something that had layers. Opie is a bit of an a-hole for expecting the father to leave his second wife and stepchildren on their first Christmas together. Not the first Christmas after the mother died, the first Christmas after he remarried. There were other years to go to the lake on Christmas Eve and seek closure. What kind of message would that have sent to the new members of their family? Welcome to the family. However, we don't want you there for this moment of our Christmas together. No offense, but y'all just aren't worth putting a little effort and understanding into on the holiday season quite yet. Maybe next year. We all know that if they had left the stepchildren and wife behind, and they were writing their POV on this, the OP would have been lambasted for being selfish and trying to exclude new family members. I've seen it happen. I get that OP wanted a specific memory, but the fact was, her father remarried and now had additional responsibilities in a wife and stepchildren. I could understand being super upset if OP had wanted to do something like this before the marriage, but after the marriage, the new family dynamic is in place, and trying to cut out members during holidays and such starts to border on being a tad selfish to their feelings. I think the major issue here is that Opie and their father are holding on to grudges and not communicating with an understanding of each other's feelings, and are only concerned with their own feelings being the ones heard and validated and respected. A part of me wonders how the stepfamily feels about all this drama. Can't be a nice Christmas for them, knowing that their first Christmas as a family is a hated memory causing family drama at yet another Christmas. Has anyone thought about their feelings? Because if I was them, I'd give the other two their wish of a Christmas alone together until they stopped making us the instrument of their dysfunction. I do agree with everything you said, as an adult, but Opie is only 21 years old, and I can see this being the perfect age to address her childhood traumas, which the situation definitely is. If Opie is reading this, I want her to know that her feelings are totally valid, and that this confrontation was bound to happen sooner or later. She should be understanding of her father's position, but she should also address the pain she felt as a child. Apologies for this super long story and comment section there. Once I stumbled on that everyone sucks here, I was like, they've got a point here. And this all just kind of spoke to me. I like to try and bring different nuanced perspectives into these stories, and I feel like this is a perfect example of it. I kind of agree with everything everyone said so far. Situations like this are messy and disruptive, and there's never really a perfect answer to any of these situations. I feel like the childhood trauma had to be dealt with eventually and confronted, and yes, this is a messy and bad way to go about it, but what other times would be a good way to go about it? When is it not messy to confront something that is traumatic? I guess a situation like therapy would be the right way to go about it, but even in that room, it is messy and traumatic because you're dealing with a trauma. I guess that's all I have to add to this one. Let me know you guys' perspectives down in the comments. Our next post is by user Not Random, titled, Am I the a-hole for stealing a prize? So I was in the supermarket this morning, Christmas Eve. They have some Christmas gift prizes at the moment, based on what number customer you are that day. I was in the queue with my daughter, and I forgot an item, so I asked my daughter to wait in the line while I went back to get it. When I returned, the woman who had been standing behind me was now standing in front of my daughter. When I asked my daughter, she said the woman pushed past her after I had left. I usually wouldn't care, but it just seemed petty to push past a kid like that and skip the queue. I decided to politely say that we were in the queue first, and that I had just left the queue for a minute, but that my daughter was still in the queue holding our place. This went back and forth for a minute until I just let it go. No point arguing with a moron. It came to her turn and she paid for her items and then started packing them. As she was packing, I moved forward when music started playing and the cashier said that I was the winner of the day. I couldn't believe it. The manager came down and said we had won a Nintendo Switch, a gift card for the store worth €250, and 10 games. I couldn't believe it. This is where I was called an a-hole. The woman who skipped us started complaining that she was supposed to have won, that we let her go ahead, and that the prizes were actually hers. We explained what happened, but she called us liars and started crying. The manager said he couldn't do anything except check the cameras, but they didn't have any audio. He said that because we were the actual 250th customer, we would get the prizes regardless. So, were we the a-hole? Should we have given her the prizes? My wife said I'm not, and I agree, but my daughter felt kinda bad afterwards because the woman cried. I think it's fair in this situation that you guys are the winner. You had your place in line stolen by as you said, a moron when you went to go grab another item. There was no point arguing with her because she wasn't going to change her mind. To me, she sounds like an entitled asshole, and she got what she deserved in this instance. If she really wanted to win that, she would have been counting the people in line and pushed in front of them, but she didn't, and this was pure coincidence. She didn't deserve that prize, she wasn't in the right place for it. Tough tits, that sucks. Not the a-hole OP. Edit. So most people have said not the a-hole. I'll happily take that. It was mainly the fact that she cried that gave me cause for concern. In regards to the prizes and lessons, I explained to my daughter why the woman cried, and one of the replies gave a great suggestion, and I went with that. She kind of understood, but I'm not sure if she got it fully. She understands that crying doesn't get you what you want, and it isn't a tool to manipulate people. She also understands that when you do something bad, there are consequences. So I think it was a good lesson for her. She wrapped the Switch and games and gave them to her sister for Christmas. Her sister was so overjoyed that she wasn't much interested in what Santa brought. She's been playing it for about 2 hours now. She played Kirby for a short while, and then started Zelda. She's really into Zelda, even though she can't do too much. Thanks for all the replies, and have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Now, in the comments, Vanished Truth says, not the a-hole. This is a great time to teach your daughter that sometimes people use tears to manipulate us, and we have to not let it work. That's a good point. I'll make sure to bring that point up. Not just that, but the lady got what she asked for, meaning she was in the position that she really wanted. Cole De Rio says, not the a-hole. She literally jumped in front of you and refused to move back when you told her. Play stupid games, don't win Switch prizes. Minor Vaz Biscuit Tin says, not the a-hole at all. That's what we call instant karma. Enjoy the new Switch and have an awesome holiday. Thanks. I've never won anything in my life, so it felt fantastic. Our daughter is going to give it to her sister as a Christmas gift because she's not much into gaming. Merry Christmas. Tree-shaped heart says, so the woman was both ahead of you and behind you in line? She's Schrodinger's a-hole. OP, on the other hand, is not the a-hole. Congrats on the sweet stash. Schrodinger's a-hole. That's the best thing I've seen on this sub. Love it. Would give you an award if I had one. And So Many Whippets says, F no. Had she not shoved a child out of the way, she would have won, but she did. I would have rubbed it in her face. Oh, look at all this crap you would have won had you not been a D-bag to a child. Maybe you should try to. Holds up the prize. Switch your attitude. Ha! I would have followed her singing about this stuff, and yes, I'm an a-hole. Enjoy your prizes. Alright, so I guess that's where we're going to end today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you think about it down in the comments below. Did you like that last story? Kinda seemed a little bit fake to me, but that's fine. People's stories are people's stories. As always, I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.